238 years ago, our founding fathers, armed with nothing more than the courage of their convictions, set forth to put an end to the long train of abuses and usurpations of their most fundamental rights at the hands of the tyrannical, globe-spanning might that was the British Empire. 13 years ago, our forefathers fought a civil war in which hundreds of thousands gave the last full measure of their devotion for the cause of eliminating the dehumanizing abomination of slavery. And 70 years ago, the greatest generation embarked on a great crusade to rid mankind of Nazi domination and ethnic cleansing. Throughout our history, from the tattered ramparts of Yorktown to the grassy hills of Gettysburg and the blood-soaked beaches of Normandy, ours has always been a nation that answers the call of moral imperative. No matter how high the cost, how insurmountable the obstacle or indomitable the foe, in every circumstance, we have set forth with the courage of David to meet Goliath. Today, America finds itself once again under moral assault. And like our forefathers in David of old, the time has come for the righteous to stand up in defense of our city on the hill and take back what the forces of evil have taken from us. My aim is to first identify this threat to the United States, and second, show you actionable steps that we as the church, all followers of Christ, must take if we are to achieve ultimate victory. If you take a moment to gaze across the vast battlefield of ideas that is the United States, invariably you will find that a single threat to the soul of our nation stands head and shoulders above the rest. This modern-day giant stands in taunting defiance of God's church as it tears away at the foundational principles that have made this nation great. It has firmly planted its black flag at the apex of our democracy in Washington, D.C., and must be defeated if we are truly to secure the blessings of liberty both to ourselves and our posterity. This most heinous foe is the giant of abortion. This butcher of infants was born on January 22nd, 1973, when the Supreme Court legalized abortion through its infamous decision in the case of Roe v. Wade. Since that January day, more than 57 million babies have been aborted. 57 million. You know, we call it genocide when we see Bashar al-Assad of Syria kill 100,000 people. And we call it genocide when Adolf Hitler murders 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. And we call it genocide when Joseph Stalin slaughters 20 million of his own people. But when we, the United States of America, this so-called righteous nation, this bastion of Christianity, when we deny the unalienable right of life to more than 57 million children, we call that choice freedom. On January 22nd, 1973, our nation chose to value humanistic freedom above the most sacred of our God-given rights, which is life. I heard the story a while back of a young woman named Jane Hunter. Jane, like many of the clients served by APRC, was a college student, unmarried, and pregnant. Now, unlike APRC's clients, Jane was born in 1946. And shortly after learning that she was pregnant, Jane was told that she was woefully ill-prepared to be a mother. That she could not live the life she wanted to with the burden of a baby pulling her down. And so she was strongly encouraged to fix her problem with an abortion. Jane's story is indicative of the kind of scare tactics that countless young men and women are subjected to every single day. And I find it ironic that the side that claims to be on the side of freedom and choice utilizes lies and fear to entrap the very young people they purport to serve. Church, this is one giant that we must face. But how did this happen? How did this nation that was founded on the foundation of the Bible wander so far astray? Well, Edmund Burke said it best when he declared that all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. It is the complacency of the church that has enabled this aforementioned giant to take control of our beloved country. What then shall we do in view of the deplorable state of our union? I say, arise, church, arise. The time has come for each and every one of us to take up the mantle of life and take back what the giants of Satan have taken from us. Church, this awakening will only manifest if we take the following steps. First, we must identify exactly who we are in Christ. Ephesians 1:22 and 23 tells us who we are when it says, "Now God has appointed Jesus to be the universal and supreme head of the church, which is his body, the fullness of him who fills all in all." We see that Christ is the head of the church, and we are his body. And just as your head will not go anywhere or do anything without your legs walking or your arms reaching, God will not move in this nation unless we are willing to go. The next thing we must do is stand together as one church. Romans 12:5 tells us why when it says, "So we, numerous as we are one body in Christ, and individually we are mutually dependent upon one another." If you look around at the modern day church, you'll see that it's scattered, divided into 9 competing factions we call denominations. Members of the church spend more time slandering and berating other members of the church in gossip circles than they do actually fighting our real enemy. Apparently we've forgotten that a house divided against itself simply cannot stand. Church, we are one body in Christ, and the time has come for us to start acting like it. The third and final thing that we must do is go. Jesus gave us this great commission when he said, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." God did not create us to stand idly by and watch as the world goes to hell all around us. God has given you feet, so use them to walk into the world around you and shine brightly in the darkness. And God has given you hands, so use them to touch the lives of those around you. And God has given you a voice, so use it to speak life and healing into the dry bones of our nation. If you truly want to see Washington, D.C. transformed, then you must first transform the people who live under its jurisdiction. I've been talking now for a little over 8 minutes. And in that time, 16 more babies have been aborted in the United States. That's 16 more first steps that will never be taken. 16 more first words that will never be spoken. And 16 more of God's beautifully and wonderfully made masterpieces that will be left as an empty canvas due to the scourge that is abortion. Now, perhaps as you hear that, and as you've been pondering the magnitude of the giant we face, you may be discouraged and feel that there is little hope left for our nation. Well, I have news for you. David, he defeated Goliath. Our forefathers defeated every single giant they faced, and I am confident that we will defeat the giants we face today, because he that is in us is greater than he that is in the world, and even amid all these things, we are made to be more than conquerors through Christ who loves us. Before I close, I would be remiss if I did not tell you the end of Jane's story. Jane refused to buy into the lies being shoved down her throat. And instead, thanks to a support system that performs many of the same functions as APRC, Jane chose life for her baby. And the child that she gave birth to, well, she's my mother now. Mrs. Courtney Woodall. Because my grandmother chose life all those years ago, I now have the opportunity to stand in front of you tonight. Thank you, Grandma. In conclusion, God is crying down from heaven saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for me?" Well, as for me, I will respond with the words of the prophet Isaiah and say, "Here I am, Lord. Send me." And I urge you to do the same.